Ladies and gentlemen, many of you that's been with me for a while know that I actually lived through Hurricane Sandy. And I know firsthand that FEMA don't do shit. Okay? In fact, if this government can get away with doing nothing for you after a disaster, they will do so. And I saw them do that firsthand in my state. You don't get help like you think. I think some people really believe when these type of disasters happen, the government is going to dive in there and be there for them in a big way. And that is just not the case at all. Okay. Even during Hurricane Sandy in my state, people that lost power and lost all of their food, you know what they did? Instead of just helping you, if you had a receipt for your groceries, they would compensate you for it. But, okay, so if you don't have a receipt, you don't deserve help. This government is just so, ladies and gentlemen, it is just no fixing this garbage that they run, and they have the audacity to believe they're doing a hell of a job running this country, and it's crap. It is living crap. What we are seeing every day is just an illusion. But when you take a closer look at how things are ran, it is a disaster. It seriously is, y'all. You know, the remedy in this country to everything is put a band-aid on it and keep going. So this is 8 months after Hurricane Michael, if you remember, wiped out Panama City and Mexico City down in the Panhandle. And this is 8 months later. First of all, people are still living in tents. They didn't even fix this stuff. Look, the roofs all have tarps on them. These are all tarps that they threw up on roofs. So some of these structures got full tarps on the roof. You can see some over here. I mean, it's a mess. Down here, I can see those tarps. So they literally haven't done any rebuilding. You can see debris right here on the ground. I mean, it's a mess. I mean, if these folks think they're going to get back in here anytime soon, they got another thought coming. They seriously do. This government does not move like you think. Now, there were some people in my state compensated. It certainly weren't people like me. I can tell you that right now. But there were some people compensated. But the majority of the people, you pretty much had to fend for yourself. After Sandy was over, there were a lot of people without power. You know how you smell barbecue grills all summer long? Well, for that period of time in October, November, I was smelling barbecue grills just like it was the middle of summer, because that was the only way people could cook their food. And that was all around me. I was lucky. The side of the street that I lived on, the power came back on in about 2 days. But believe it or not, the rest of my street, they were out for 3 weeks. So it was only a few of us on the street that had power. And see, those folks, they're on a whole different, they were getting their power from a whole different side. That's why they didn't get theirs right away. My part of the street where I am, we're tied into the main parkway. So they got us on right away. But it was terrible. It was a terrible situation looking at these folks struggle. Some of them were going door to door to see if they could get, help, or what you could give them to help. It was really a terrible situation after Sandy. And I have to tell y'all, FEMA was not there. They were not there for the residents. They were not there. So when these disasters strike again, you're going to see many of these destroyed neighborhoods get abandoned completely and out there fending for themselves. Now, a few months ago, I did an article on how people down there are still living in tents. Nobody in this government have got them out of the tents and at least try to put them in a trailer or something. That hasn't happened down there. So it is a mess. And the sad part is they're probably going to go through the entire summer like this too. You know, some people do have family and friends that can help them, but that's not the case with everybody. Some people literally have no one, and they have to just fend for themselves. This is why after Hurricane Michael, you saw people scavenging, going through refrigerators of houses that were destroyed to see what food they can get out of the refrigerator. They were literally starving. So you may think this government is on top of these things. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, they're not at all. And no matter how many disasters happen, they are not fully prepared. Look at what happened in Puerto Rico. FEMA left them high and dry. Didn't even take care of the people that need help. They took care of some of them, but there were a lot of people that didn't get helped. They're not as together as you think. I think some of our people, they just, because of the kind of propaganda they put out in this country, it makes you believe these folks got their shit together. But I'm telling you, take a closer look at how many of these things are ran. It is horrific. I guess if you still got blinders on, you think it's all good. But if your blinders are off and you see this shit for what it is, you know this is a load of bullshit that's going on in this country. But I'm going to go ahead and play the video from NPR so you can hear about what it's like down in the Panhandle 8 months after Hurricane Michael.
The country is finally getting a break from severe weather today. Hundreds of tornadoes touched down earlier this week in states from Texas to New Jersey, and record flooding is expected to continue along the Arkansas River throughout the weekend. But there are many places still recovering from disasters like hurricanes that happened months ago.
Natural disasters don't distinguish between places that have money to rebuild and those that don't. A big city like Miami or Houston has tools to bounce back from a hurricane. You just don't find those resources in a place like Parker, Florida. Rich Musgrave is the mayor of this small town in the Florida Panhandle, population 4,500.
100% of our structures were damaged in one way or another.
Back in October, the eye wall of Hurricane Michael passed right over Parker. It was a Category 5 storm, one of the strongest recorded storms ever to hit the continental U.S.
In the days and weeks directly following the storm, it was difficult to drive around because you lost all your landmarks.
Mm-hmm.
You'd pass by a street you used to turn on all the time, and you find yourself, ooh, I missed it, and I have to turn around and come back.
Now, a new hurricane season starts tomorrow, so I visited the Panhandle to see how people are recovering. And one of the things that stood out was how much more difficult it is for small towns like Parker to rebuild.
The level of change is just beyond comprehension.
Parker is only 2 square miles, right on the water near Panama City. It used to be known for its sprawling old shade trees. The storm knocked down around 80% of them. The way the system works is that FEMA pays for most of the cleanup costs after a natural disaster. Generally, local governments have to front the money and get reimbursed. Long-term, federal money for housing and other reconstruction projects is supposed to come from Congress, but partisan fighting has delayed the disaster relief bill. Meanwhile, the cleanup in Parker cost more than the annual budget, and Mayor Rich Musgrave says FEMA still hasn't reimbursed the town. In the meantime, he hasn't paid the cleanup crews.
They have been very gracious and kind in not asking for or demanding payment of certain invoices. So I'm just kind of holding back.
Yeah.
But at some point, the chicken's going to come home to roost.
So you're saying that because the federal government has not reimbursed your town has not been able to pay the companies that did the hauling, and they've just been gracious enough not to knock down your door and say, we deserve to be paid.
Ari, you're exactly right. So the question I have is, at some point, we're going to have to lay out enough cash, and do we have enough ready cash left to pay the bills? I mean, it's a valid question, and I don't know the answer to that yet.
Parker has to fill out the same paperwork as a much bigger city, but they don't have as much staff to do it all, filling out project worksheets and writing grant applications. Parker has a few dozen city workers total. That includes librarians and firefighters. Local businesses in Parker are fighting to get back to normal too.
I think those should be ready.
When most buildings are damaged and there isn't money to repair them, it's tough for business owners to find a place they can reopen. No local business means a city doesn't get as much income from utilities and taxes, which makes it even harder for a place like Parker to get back on its feet.
Well, right now I have no competition as far as restaurant. There's no restaurants in town. I mean, there's nothing.
Julia Ahmed reopened her Pizzeria Napoli in a new location just last month.
We make our dough fresh every day. We make our own sauce. We use fresh ingredients.
The storm passed by in October.
Yes.
The business reopened in April.
Correct.
Did you ever imagine it would take that long?
No. In fact, I kept posting on Facebook, we'll be open at the end of January, we'll be open at the end of February, and it just kept going on and on.
Here on the coast, there's tourism and an Air Force base that towns can lean on to help propel the economic recovery. Rural communities have even bigger challenges, so I drove 50 miles north from the coast. Marianna is a small town of about 6,000 people, about an hour's drive inland. A lot of people here work in farming, timber. When you walk down the main street, you can see buildings that are demolished and others that have had the facades partially ripped off.
To see that building in the street, this one down, there's one in the next block that literally fell into the street. That shook everybody up. Because, these buildings are over 100 years old. To see that kind of power humbles you greatly.
Mm-hmm. Cindy Smith owns a few businesses on Marianna's Main Street, including Smith & Smith Jewelers, where I met her.
This county's not a big money. It's not a rich county, So you're fighting left and right for the money to get the cleanup.
Marianna's annual budget is $5 or $6 million a year. But one of the biggest industries is timber, and many of the trees have been knocked down. One of the biggest employers is a federal prison that's been closed since October.
When they moved all those inmates out, we provide all their services, water, sewer, and natural gas. Well, you're talking about $1 million in revenue that just kind of went out the door.
Marianna City Manager Jim Dean has had to make some tough financial decisions. If everything in town is damaged and tax revenue isn't coming in like it used to, what do you fix first?
You're going to have to be very selective at what you do, or you're going to put yourself so far in debt that you're going to be paying off debt from this storm before you even begin to provide a baseball field for your kids to play baseball on, before you buy a new police car, before you buy a fire truck. I mean,
just because you were picking up trees.
Just because you're picking up trees.
So you feel like the system was not designed for a place like Marianna?
It's just a bigger challenge for us.
Yeah.
And the programs become more complex, and it becomes a daunting task to try and meet some of the requirements.
Next week, Congress is expected to finally pass a disaster relief bill, and President Trump says he'll sign it. But Jim Dean says the fact that it's taken more than 230 days only adds to his problems.
That money could potentially have already been on the street. There could be projects underway. There could be projects that are in the design phase or being bid out right now. But we don't have applications because the money's just getting started. We don't have any design work done. And so we're sure not at a point where we can bid the project.
Yeah.
So if we would have done this 200 days ago, we'd probably be in a lot better position, but we're not.
That's Jim Dean, the city manager of Marianna, Florida. In another part of the program, we'll visit Tyndall Air Force Base, just outside of Panama City. In a storm that caused $25 billion of damage, almost $5 billion was on this base alone.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, do you see what I mean when I say they don't get to you right away? Now, here it is 8 months later, and Congress is just passing a disaster relief bill. 8 months? So what were you supposed to do in all that time to take care of yourself or get help? So that's my point. When these disasters happen, the best thing you need to do is put plans in place for yourself and don't hold your breath for this government. Okay? Because if you're sitting around waiting for them, you will be in trouble. Please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.